Hey everybody, this is Don with Wizard Tower Publishing, and with me is my good friend and co-publisher author Stephen Lake. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good.
Good. This is our introductory video. This is the first video for the Wizard Tower Publishing vlog, and it's on the 4th of July. Happy 250.
Woohoo!
That's right. In our first video, me and Steve were talking, and we thought about what could we talk about that is interesting, but also that is something that people can really, I think, get something out of. And that is, we're going to talk about what makes a good book cover, what to watch out for. Steve has written how many books, Steve, total now have you published?
Oh, something like 30 something.
Okay, I think I'm on like 15 or 16. So we're going to talk about book covers, what makes a good book cover, what makes a bad book cover, and kind of the reason why book covers are so important. So, Steve, thanks for coming on with me.
Oh, you're welcome.
And Steve is going to be a really big thing in Wizard Tower Publishing. He's been a friend of mine for almost 20 years, and he knows what he's talking about. And he's kind of like, might as well just be a co-publisher. we pretty much do everything together. But all right, the book cover. Now, a lot of authors, and this is something that I see a lot in book publishing as a publisher, a lot of authors, and I see it online, think they have a really good book cover, but they really don't. And it's not because they don't have a good eye. It's because they just don't understand the basics of what makes a good book cover. They just really don't. And, to me, there's 4 points that you have to watch out for with the book cover. I call it the typography rule, the focal point rule, there's the genre rule, and then the technical rule. So I want to kind of get in each one a little bit and get kind of like into the meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah. Well, one big thing too, I don't know which of those 4 this fits under, but
yeah,
one thing I found with a lot of people who primarily in the self-publishing is once you get into the more professional stuff, there's people in there that are going to be doing the cover the right way or else.
Yes.
But when they're doing the self-publishing, I've seen a lot of people that it looks more like something you would have done up for a high school book report or something.
Well, it's amateur because this is the problem. A lot of people say that looks good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happens is they get caught up in that excitement. It's their book cover. And instead of looking at it objectively, they really kind of get really fishbowled on it,
mm-hmm.
And I think that's more focal point, because like I'll kind of go like number 1, the typography. A lot of people don't understand that, there's a rule with book cover design called the 2-font rule. You
mm-hmm.
really don't want to go more than 2 different fonts,
mm-hmm.
Because those fonts have to be also complementary. Because what you want, I think, is you want one strong, distinct font, and that's usually for the title.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want more of a clean, very legible, highly legible font for like the subtitle and the author's name.
Yes, and you also don't want the cover to be so busy that people look at it and get lost in the cover and not, and just ignore the book itself.
Exactly, because that's also kind of like where the hierarchy comes from. Because a lot of people, I'm the author, I want my name big and I want my name huge. No, actually, you want the title the most prominent and then the author's name smaller, unless you're like a Stephen King, like a lot of times, because a lot of times then, it's kind of weird when you're unknown or when you're just starting out, you want the title because that's what people recognize. I recognize, like with you, the Ort Perimeter, and such. But with Stephen King, I recognize Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like if you're famous, your name's bigger. If you're not famous, your name is smaller.
Yeah, if your name's smaller, you want the book to sell itself because people can look at you and go, who's Fred Wilkins? Okay, I don't have no idea who this is, but I understand. I see his story title and I've heard about it all over Facebook, and I want to read this.
Well, again, I can name names. J.K. Rowling, we know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen King, Clive Cussler, we know these authors. These are authors that. Like, I'll give you an example. Clive Cussler writes a lot of adventure. He's dead now, sadly. But before he passed away, he was famous for his Dirk Pitt adventure novels.
Mm-hmm.
Dirk Pitt was the main character. I used to buy all of his stuff. So when Clive Cussler announced a new book was out, I didn't go to Barnes and Noble to buy the book or Amazon by title. I didn't care. I bought it by Clive Cussler. And I would walk in and say, where's Clive Cussler's latest book at? Also cliches, and this is something that I talk to authors a lot about, and you authors out there watching this video need to be very careful here about that, is when I say cliches with title is the fonts. Avoid fonts like Comic Sans or Papyrus.
Or like, the big, one of the ones I've seen that people are like, oh, this is really epic. And it's that stupid lightning bolt font.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, because the thing is, again, people like it, but people don't understand it doesn't work with the cover. And again, cliche fonts, like Papyrus. Now, there are rules that you can break and you can use that stuff. Like if I was doing a book on Egyptian mythology, sure, maybe Papyrus would be a cool font to use with it. So those are the big things, again, with the number one thing, the typography. But then you kind of get into things like, you got to have a clear focal point. An image, I see authors a lot, and we get this with my publishing company and our, that we do, is authors will say, all right, I got this vision for my cover. I have this main character. He's got blue eyes and there's an eagle over here and a mountain behind him. And there's a line of trees, but then there's like a small dog. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. First of all, nobody's going to care about the color of eyes because the, character's so small on a cover, nobody's going to notice it. And with having one single strong image, that's a recognizable focal point. They look at it and they go, oh, boom. And that kind of goes in with the title of the cover.
Right. And whatever that item is in the focal point, you want it to be something that they see it and go, oh,
Yes. You want
it has to pop.
Yeah. You want that, cover. Whoa. Like you just said, whoa, because Barnes and Noble lines, they have a habit of face line their shelves. Because what are they doing? They're trying to get you to see the focal point of that cover, the image. Plus you got to, be careful of you want high contrast because you want to ensure that the background contrasts really properly with the text so the title pops clearly. And you don't want a bunch of messy outlines. Like a lot of people want to outline and no, you want it very clean. You want that high contrast title over image. There's the name, the hierarchy we talked about earlier. So I think that's really important. Do you think there's any other point about focal point that's important?
Well, one of the things, and this was one of the concept covers I worked up, is the cover, the focal point itself in the foreground was the, what was it? It was the main character himself with his sled, because it was about, well, it was what was the story called? The Forever Winter. And it was centered around this guy that was basically kind of like a Norseman going through winter, but then
I come right to my head. Forever Winter. I got visions in my head of what it is.
Yeah, and then in the background you see the various different parts of the world that he's in, just kind of like little snapshots and stuff. But he's the focal point, but then the other stuff is kind of the supporting cast for the story, because it's like, okay, so it's some Norse dude on a sled. What's the big deal? But then you sprinkle in the other stuff, and you go, oh, there's more of a story here.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cake, from the outside, you got to make sure that it's layered, everybody likes a good layered cake, what I mean? But then we get in a number 3, you want to make sure that your genre is very clear to the person looking at it, because if I'm only into fantasy and you're giving me mixed signals, I'm going to walk past that cover of Steve's and I'm going to go to Don's cover, because Don's cover is very clear in the genre. So, I call it, you want to make sure that it looks and it belongs in the section in the same shelf as, like I said, those bestsellers. So if you're doing a murder mystery or something, or a horror mystery, you want to make sure it looks good with Stephen King's book, because you want to kind of blend in. So, a good idea for authors, and I always tell authors this, is definitely research the current tropes that the bestsellers are using. Look at what is selling. Don't copy it, but look at what's selling. And I think, as an example, if you're writing fantasy novels, A lot of times what will happen is if you look at the best-selling fantasy novels, they carry kind of a common trope, a common theme, and you want to kind of look at that and you want to learn that because you don't definitely want to copy them, but understand that again, they're going off of, again, we talked about this above. Look what the fonts they use, look at the sizes, the placement, look at that typography and such. Also, what you want to do is, there's a psychology of color, and it sounds silly, but there is. You want to use a bold color palette that matches the mood. So, as an example, if it's a thriller or if it's like a murder mystery, you want to make your cover more dark, more moody. If it's like a romance novel and such, you want the bright colors, you want the yellows and the pastel creams, and you want it and such. Because again, fantasy, you want that kind of, you want to use a lot of greens and blues and stuff like that, because those are the things that kind of go with fantasy.
Yeah, because it's people associate colors with specific moods or themes and stuff like that, and you want to follow that to try to draw them in.
Absolutely. So that's kind of like the 1, 2, 3, and then there's actually a fifth one we'll get into, but that's just something that's locally that's recently come up, and we'll get into that in a second. It's probably going to be our most talked about point in this video, by the way. And number 4 is, there's technical guidelines. So as an example, I tell people, be careful of what, especially if you're self-publishing, and we as a publisher really are careful of this, and that is, what are your retailer guidelines? What are Barnes and Noble's requirements? Like Barnes and Noble requires that publisher, and you'll turn them off in a moment. If they look up your ISBN and they look at the back end data and they see that their books are not returnable, they won't deal with you. So you got to be careful of, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple, Kindle and Nook, even those have independent requirements. These other booksellers that are out there, the book, your book distributors out there, what are their technical requirements? Like as an example, you have digital requirements. So like as an example, Amazon KDP recommends, they want like a 1.6 to 1 image ratio for an image size example. I think they do image size at 2,560 by 1,600 pixels. And I know that kind of sounds silly to go, well, who cares? It's just an image. But they require that because the reason why you want a 2560 by 1,600 image, and again, this is why dealing with a publisher like us is a smart thing. We know that they want that image ratio because that image ratio works when it's blown up on a tablet, when it's on a computer, or when it's on your phone. So they're requiring things that handle different things depending on the device that you're looking at it. Also with print, you got to be careful because, if you're going to do physical copies, whether it be paperback or hardcover, you're going to want to make sure that the cover, the spine, the back cover, all work with what you're doing. There's bleed allowances. Like you'll see a lot of times, like a publisher will talk about, 8.75 by 11.25. And you're like, what's that? That's for the bleed, which is the make sure you make it bigger. Excuse you, you're yawning. See, don't be bored. We're trying not to bore everybody, even Steve's yawning. But again, it's kind of funny that you yawn at this because these are the boring things to authors, but to us, it's our meat and potatoes because we have to understand that, because when you publish with Wizard Tower Publishing, we make sure that your book meets all these boring, I'm going to yawn, requirements, and then finally, the big one, and I see this online, AI. Be wary of AI, and it's not because the reasons that you think. Does AI use images from, you hear it all the time, well, you're stealing from artists? Not really anymore. They've really cleaned their act up. But the problem with AI is that there's things sometimes that you don't see in an AI image, and you're excited about it, and you put that on your cover and you publish it, and someone goes, hey, did you see that image in the background? That person has 2 hands. or
or they've got 10 fingers.
exactly the weird things or lines. AI is great and it's getting better all the time, but also keep in mind, and we keep in mind this is we don't deal in AI. Because we have relationships with artists and we try to take care of our artists. And again, every publisher is different, but AI is a way to very quickly get a cover. Yes, it's free. The F word that everybody loves, free. But on the same token, you got to be careful because AI, you run the risk, because if an AI image pulls up and it looks too similar to a cover that a well-known author has, and maybe that author is highly litigious, like there are authors out there, and I'm not going to name her, because if I named her, you'd know she wrote a book about a wizard with lots of kids, a boy wizard at a college. Don't know who that is, but she is known to be highly litigious. And what litigious basically means is they sue the hell out of people all the time. So you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, well, AI I think is good. Not good in the production sphere, but that's really good in the concepting sphere, because you can sit there and work out a design that you think would work really well, and then have a regular regular artist go in there and go, okay, now we're going to take your ideas that are in this and we're going to put them into an actual cover. Not a one-to-one copy, but just like, here's the concept. What can you do with it?
You absolutely nailed it in this. You just said it, and that's true. Eric, my good friend Eric, and he's on our other vlog of many things. Eric Tenkar from Tenkar's Tavern. You can go on YouTube and look up Tenkar's Tavern. Eric uses AI, but what Eric does is Eric uses AI, like as an example, to give him ideas to work out a plan for his video. Eric will use AI, and authors should do this. Like, you can go in and say, give me 50 character names for a science fiction novel involving aliens from a planet that they breathe gas, and it'll pump out 50 names. Like you just said, if use AI, as a sketchboard to throw ideas at you, because sometimes you need just that small breakthrough, and then if you can get through that little hump, then you can go move on in your thing. So that's basically it with the cover and the things of Warren. And, with Wizard Tower Publishing, if you choose to use us, you can go to wizardtowerpublishing.com. Our link is down below. In fact, it's going live tonight, the 4th of July. And you can see the packages that we offer. What we do is we do a different kind of publishing, and then we'll close this video. The publishing that we do is you get 100% of the royalties. What we'll do is we'll get your book set up. We can do editing, layout, cover, all the things. We can get it set up for an ebook, for Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, all of that. We'll even set you up where you are with Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and other well-known sellers, but the money is coming 100% to you. So what we're doing is we're taking your manuscript and your idea, we're working with you to get it into a printed form, sort of like, completely printed form book. And then what we do is we'll go ahead and we'll get it where you're selling your book online yourself. If you need updating, if you need help with that, we'll help you with that. We'll work with you even after the fact. If you got another book, you need it loaded, we can do that for you and such. So wizardtowerpublishing.com down below. Like I said, check us out. We have very affordable packages. If you don't want us to do everything and you just need a book cover, we'll do that. You just need a layout or an edit or something else. We have what we call an author a la carte section under services. You can click on it and you'll see all the services we offer. So that's pretty much from me, Don. Steve, you got anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, Steve, thanks for coming on, talking about covers with me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Me and Steve will be back on quite a bit. You might see some other people on with us, but we're going to be doing a lot of blogging, a lot of vlogging to help authors, to help all of you get better. That's our goal here. Self-publishing, and people have a stigma against it of, oh, you paid to publish. No. What you're doing is you're getting the help that you need through publisher like Wizard Tower Publishing. We're going to get you set up where we're not getting a portion of your money. It's your story. It's your money. You should get all of it. We're going to take your rough draft and we're going to get it all done to the point where you're online selling, hassle-free, and every month those royalties are coming into your bank account, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
So, Steve, thanks for coming on tonight.
Oh, you're welcome.
And this is Don and Steve with Wizard Tower Publishing. Thanks for tuning into our video tonight. And you can go down to wizardtowerpublishing.com. Check us out. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and drop us an email at info@wizardtowerpublishing.com, or wizardtowerpublishing@gmail.com is another way you can get a hold of us. So, Steve, thanks for coming on tonight. Everybody else, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next video.